Consider for a moment that you have entered the Tate, highly prestigious and well-regarded art gallery. You come across my latest masterwork, a huge 6-foot canvas, ornately framed upon the wall, blank, save for a spattering of my own human feces. Now answer me this, is this art? But wait, let's back up just a little bit. It is the early 20th century, and the First World War is dawning. In response to the atrocities of the war, European artists began an early Avant Garde movement known simply as Dada. Dada was a rejection of logic, reason, capitalist interests, and cultural and intellectual conformity in art, as the artists believed that these principles were products of the society that had resulted in the most horrendous abomination of war the world had ever seen, and thus could have no value. Day was not about being aesthetically pleasing, but instead sought to upend our sensibilities and raise questions about society, the role of the artist, and the purpose of art. Many of the great Day works relied upon chance. Indeed, the term dodo was settled upon by Austrian artist Richard Holzenbeck plunging a knife at random into a dictionary. Now we return to the present day, and with an appropriate framework of reference points set up, we can talk of Steven Moffat. Welcome to the Doctor Who Masterclass, the series in which we take an intellectual look at Doctor Who. It is 2009. Then showrunner Russell T Davies had successfully resurrected Doctor Who and cultivated it into a worldwide smash hit. He did so by carefully studying the landscape of popular television and bourgeois culture that had been developing since the late 90s, and weaving it into the tapestry that was his run on the programme. In other words, the T Davies era was, in order to be easily accessible, firmly a summation and end result of the culture and art within its time. A brief look at the context of our world climate indicates a tense and disastrous world on the brink of war, and politically, an altar for the worshipping of capitalism. The finish line of the culture T Davies drew upon. Enter Steven Moffat, a Scottish-born teacher turned playwright, known for his groundbreaking children's shows and adult sitcoms. By looking at the Moffat oeuvre, we can immediately see a stark dichotomy with the work of his predecessor. Where T Davies adheres to traditional storytelling methods, character development, the 3-act structure, and the basic principles of cause and effect, Moffat discards these structural devices with aplomb. Instead, he relies on undercutting intellectual conformity, challenging the role of writers and audiences in storytelling, and relying on chance and random luck when crafting his screenplays, scripting as masterfully as Holzenbeck's plunging of knife into dictionary. What a casual viewer may discard as abrasive nonsense, the trained eye can identify as a pure work of Dada. Let us pick upon his greatest creation, Clara. Many critics have written the Clara character off as unlikable, bland, and a drain upon their very souls. This reaction is fair enough. It requires a very high IQ to appreciate Clara Oswald. Here, Moffat defies us to challenge our views by taking the companion role, a role previously written as a likeable and easily accessible audience entry point in the stories of standard culture, and crafting an intrinsically unlikable and ugly companion. Indeed, her arc by academic standards is muddled, containing several false starts and stops with no clear emotional throughline or moralistic message. Her character is imperfect and intangible, mainly hinted at and never given an audience-friendly form. This genius stroke of meta-characterization distances the audience from the programme in a way they never have been before, and lifts it above its traditionally vaudevillian roots. As Tristan Czar, Romanian avant-garde poet and one of the presidents of Dodo, said, Dada is not modern at all. It is rather a return to a quasi-Buddhist religion of indifference. Dada is stillness, and does not understand the passions. Twice Upon a Time, Moffat's final flourish as showrunner, is another great example of his signature storytelling. It is a hero's journey that never goes anywhere, and in the process makes a mockery of our hero. What are the empathetic elements of drama in the text? There are none. Twice Upon a Time engages by disengaging, by tearing itself down. I often compare it structurally to Hans Arp's Opus Null, a surrealist poem from which Twice Upon a Time obviously borrows heavily. I am the entire lifetime long, the ovaries dozeneth meaning, totality of Augustine, in cellulose gown preening, half wizard and half maestro, without a cane, the time he'll beat, a greeny clock face on his hat, and falls down from the driver's seat. He sits with himself in an arc, a circle sits right by his side. A bag that holds a comb that stands must be his sofa and his bride. He sees them not, but greets them still. He's with them, and they're all about. The hats are all included. They screw the top from his ego. As TARDIS Girl X Frozen Fan 229 writes, Moffat is so clever. Most people don't get it, and it's funny they're so confused when it's really simple. Haters just hate. I'd like to see them write such clever stories. What awards have you won? So now I have given you ample reference points and 6 whole minutes to contemplate my 6-foot feces canvas. What do you think? If you've been paying attention to the concepts woven here, that art is essentially the link between art, artist and audience, and in a broader sense our society, rather than the factual article of art itself, then yes, of course it's art. Art is not meant to be good. Art is meant to make us question, and Clara makes us not only question our own fallible and unlikable human nature, but also that of Moffat as the artist who rendered her, which truly elevated Doctor Who from a dull affirmation of the status quo into true art. By Zara's words, Clara is perfect Dada. Dada is a roaring of tense colours and interlacing of opposites and of all contradictions, grotesques, inconsistencies. Life. However, as Moffat has risen to popularity in the modern lexicon of television, I can't help but wonder if he has unwittingly undercut his own message. In a way that's only natural with a bold, brilliant subversion that can fascinate an audience, it has been repeated, refined, processed, marketed. Indeed, early pioneers of Dada were so fervently set on opposing bourgeois culture that the movement was often against itself, with Dada is anti-Dada being a popular mantra among the artists. What started off as a brave counterculture in 2010 has taken its place as simply culture. As Steven Moffat leaves into the great unknown, the next wave of surrealism must in fact be a return to classical storytelling structure now that the abrasive other has become the norm in society. I leave you with this quote from Francis Picabaya on Dada, which I feel succinctly sums up the Steven Moffat era. Dada is like your hopes, nothing. Like your paradise, nothing. Like your ideals, nothing. Like your heroes, nothing. Like your artists, nothing. Like your religions, nothing.